Most people think Carnival Cruise Line and Royal Caribbean international ships go quiet after midnight, with the casino winding down, the buffet closing up, and everyone heading back to their cabins. That assumption turns out to be wrong. After researching this topic and talking to cruisers who've lived the late-night experience firsthand, the reality proved far more layered than I expected. What happens after midnight depends entirely on which cruise you book, and the range stretches from surprisingly tame all the way to genuinely explicit. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what to expect from mainstream lines like Carnival and Royal Caribbean, what Virgin Voyages actually delivers despite its reputation, and what goes on aboard fully chartered lifestyle cruises, including Desire Cruises, Bliss Cruise, and emerging providers like Killing Kittens Cruises, where the rules operate completely differently. Welcome to Cruise Edition. Let's go! And I'm glad you're here, because this topic gets either sensationalized or avoided entirely by most cruise content creators. What I'm going to give you is the honest breakdown, so you can decide what's actually right for you. The first thing I learned that caught me off guard was this: the idea that cruise ships become ghost towns after midnight is completely outdated. Nightclubs on most major cruise lines stay open until the last passenger leaves. Norwegian Cruise Line's Ocean's Bar operates around the clock on many ships, and Royal Caribbean's Sorrento's Pizza keeps serving until 2 or 3 in the morning on sea nights. MSC Cruises follows similar late-night patterns, with their pool deck bars remaining active until 2 a.m. Casinos run until 2 or 3 a.m. whenever the ship reaches international waters. The nightlife exists, and the real question becomes what kind of nightlife you're actually hoping to find. What I noticed is that the late-night crowd shrinks dramatically compared to the daytime population, with most passengers heading to their cabins by midnight. The people who stay out tend to fall into a few categories, including serious gamblers, couples seeking adult entertainment, solo travelers hoping to meet people, and groups specifically there to party. A packed nightclub with land club energy on a mainstream cruise line might leave you disappointed, but if you know where to look, there's more happening than most first-time cruisers realize. The most risque activity I found on mainstream cruise lines is an adults-only scavenger hunt called The Quest, offered by both Royal Caribbean and Carnival, and typically scheduled after 11 p.m. on the last night of a cruise. Teams of 100 or more passengers compete to complete challenges that start innocent and escalate deliberately, with early tasks like bring a sock with a hole in it eventually giving way to requests like 6 ladies' bras on stage or prove you're wearing a red thong. Let me be clear about what the quest actually involves. Women do remove bras for points, people do get on stage in their underwear, and passengers who've attended describe the whole thing as wild and even raunchy. But here's the thing: it's not explicit sexual activity happening up there. The experience lands closer to a very adult party game with alcohol involved, and the cruise director controls how far things go based on the crowd's energy that night. What changed recently is that the quest disappeared during COVID and has only gradually returned to ships since then. Brand ambassador John Heald confirmed it remains an option on most Carnival ships, but individual cruise directors can choose not to host it if they're uncomfortable. It's been toned down compared to pre-pandemic versions, which means if the quest is specifically why you're booking, check recent cruise compass schedules for your ship before assuming it'll happen on your sailing. Have you ever attended the quest or something similar? and I'm curious whether your experience matched the reputation or fell short of it. Late-night comedy shows were something I initially overlooked, but they turned out to be one of the most reliable adult entertainment options across all major lines. Carnival's Punchliner Comedy Club runs R-rated shows after 10 p.m., featuring explicit language and sexual humor that would never fly during family hours. And Royal Caribbean, along with Norwegian, operate similar setups. The key detail is that these shows enforce the 18+ requirement strictly. Casino culture after midnight carries its own distinct vibe, with casual players disappearing and serious gamblers emerging from wherever they've been waiting. And this is where it gets interesting, because most people don't realize cruise ship casinos can only operate in international waters, meaning beyond 12 nautical miles from the U.S. coastline. The Gambling Ship Act of 1948 created this federal restriction, which explains why casinos close while docked in port and why gambling age varies by region. Most Caribbean sailings allow 18+ gambling, but Alaska cruises on Royal Caribbean require 21. Casino bars stay open whenever the casino operates until 2:30 a.m. on most Carnival ships and 3 a.m. on Royal Caribbean vessels, which makes them one of the most reliable late-night spots on any ship. If you enjoy having a drink while playing slots at 1 in the morning, that option exists on almost every cruise. This is where expectations often clash with reality. Most mainstream cruise ship bars close around 1 a.m. rather than 3 or 4 a.m. like clubs on land. And while European cruise lines tend to stay open later, North American ships cater to passengers who generally turn in earlier. Nightclubs technically stay open until the last person leaves, but if that nightclub empties out by 12:30, that's when they shut it down. The midnight buffet represents another expectation I had to abandon entirely. Those elaborate displays featuring ice sculptures and carved roasts basically don't exist anymore, because Carnival phased them out due to food waste and labor costs, and what replaced them includes 24-hour pizza, room service with added fees, and simplified late-night snack menus. If you're booking a cruise hoping for that theatrical midnight buffet experience from decades past, I don't want you walking on board disappointed. If this breakdown is helping you understand what cruise nightlife actually looks like, consider subscribing, because I cover these kinds of practical adult cruise topics every week, and my focus stays on what you actually need to know before you spend the money. Now I need to address Virgin Voyages, because the misconceptions around this cruise line run deep. People genuinely believe Virgin Voyages operates as a swinger cruise, and that's simply not true. Let me put this directly. Virgin Voyages enforces an adults-only policy, meaning everyone on board is 18 or older, and the marketing leans cheeky with things like an ice cream shop called Lick Me Till Ice Cream, and entertainment costumes that can be revealing. But the actual experience delivers a sophisticated party atmosphere rather than a sexually explicit environment. Their signature event, called Scarlet Night, functions as a ship-wide party where everyone wears red, starting around 9 p.m. with performances in the Red Room throughout the ship, then moving to a pool party by 10:30 and continuing at the Manor nightclub until 4 a.m. That runs later than anything on mainstream cruise lines. The energy climbs higher and the crowd skews younger. What Scarlet Night actually involves is acrobatics, dancing, DJs, and drinks, not explicit content of any kind. What I found revealing is that Virgin actually pulled back some of their early provocative marketing, removing sex kits that were initially placed in cabins and discontinuing a show featuring a so-called sex doctor. The current product still delivers the most nightlife-forward mainstream cruise experience available, but it operates fundamentally differently from what lifestyle cruises offer. If explicitly adult cruise experiences are what you're seeking, dedicated lifestyle cruises are where that actually exists. Companies like Desire Cruises, Bliss Cruise, Temptation Cruises, and the emerging Killing Kittens Cruises charter entire ships for the swinger community. And these are not mainstream cruise experiences with an adult twist attached. Purpose-built environments await, with clothing-optional pool decks, designated playrooms, and theme nights carrying names like Submit and Lingerie Night. Desire Cruises' February 2026 West Indies sailing runs from $8,000 for an interior cabin all the way up to $42,000 for the owner's suite, plus $400 to $450 per person in additional fees. And that particular sailing already sold out with a waiting list. Bliss Cruise charters larger ships like Royal Caribbean's Wonder of the Seas and Celebrity Cruises' Celebrity Silhouette, where balcony cabins start around $6,250 per cabin. The rules on these cruises enforce stricter boundaries than most people assume, with sexual activity limited to private staterooms and designated playrooms only. Violations result in removal at the next port with no refund. Many passengers attend purely for the open-minded atmosphere without ever stepping into the playrooms, and most people on these sailings head to bed by 1:30 a.m., just like on regular cruises. What caught me off guard is that these cruises operate as couples only or couples plus single women, meaning single men typically cannot book at all. Both partners must check in together at the port, so if this appeals to you, understand that the community aspect sits at the center of the entire experience. I want to address this honestly because people wonder about it constantly but rarely get straight answers. Hookups do happen on mainstream cruises, and the vacation mindset combined with alcohol and close quarters creates conditions for it. But here's the thing. No industry statistics exist proving cruise ships generate dramatically higher hookup rates than other vacation destinations. Singles mixers show up on most cruise lines, usually scheduled on day 1 or 2 around 5 to 7 p.m. in designated bars. Norwegian stands out for solo travelers by offering dedicated studio cabins that don't charge single supplements, along with an exclusive studio lounge featuring daily happy hours. If meeting people ranks as a priority for you, shorter 3 to 4 day Caribbean sailings tend to attract more singles and party-focused passengers. The upside-down pineapple symbol you might have heard about does carry real meaning as a swinger community signal indicating openness to partner swapping, and you'll occasionally spot it on cabin door decorations or accessories. Context matters here, because not everyone wearing pineapple patterns knows the association, and most swingers prefer dedicated lifestyle cruises anyway. Carnival reportedly removes upside-down pineapple door decorations when spotted, though they haven't confirmed an official policy on it. If you've noticed the pineapple thing on your cruises, I'd be curious to hear your take on how common it actually is. One historical detail that fascinated me is that topless sunbathing decks existed on all Carnival ships through the 1990s, and brand ambassador John Heald confirmed this directly. Those decks were phased out in the early 2000s as cruise lines shifted toward family-friendly positioning, and Carnival's official stance now states they will never bring them back. On the safety side, some statistics deserve mention because FBI data for early 2025 reported 48 crimes on cruises, including 23 alleged rapes and 10 sexual assaults. Sexual assault remains the most commonly reported major crime at sea. Recent lawsuits have highlighted concerns about over-serving passengers, including cases where individuals received excessive drinks before serious incidents occurred. And Carnival now limits drink package users to 15 alcoholic drinks per 24-hour period under Cruise Lines International Association guidelines. None of this is meant to scare anyone away, because millions of people cruise safely every year. But if you're planning late nights with heavy drinking, being aware of your limits and your surroundings matters. My honest takeaway after all this research comes down to understanding that the after-midnight cruise experience exists on a spectrum. Mainstream lines offer adult comedy, casinos running until 2 a.m., and occasionally something like The Quest. Virgin Voyages delivers genuine nightclub energy until 4 a.m. without explicit content involved. Lifestyle cruises provide something entirely different for a specific community willing to pay premium prices. What you shouldn't expect is for any mainstream cruise to magically transform into something wilder than it's designed to be. The nightlife options exist if you seek them out, but most passengers fall asleep by midnight regardless of what's available. If late-night activity genuinely matters to your cruise experience, book accordingly and verify what's actually offered on your specific ship and sailing. Thanks for watching Cruise Edition, and I'll see you in the next one.